Takumi was sent accidentally to another world, drinks a lot of poison, and gets his ass kicked, but then he creates his own harem and becomes the strongest wizard. He finds himself falling, unsure of where he is or where he's headed. The only thing he remembers is being suddenly enveloped in light. Takumi lands in a cloudy area, where Lady Nolan welcomes him. She explains that he has been summoned to Mildgard by an otherworlder summoning spell. However, she quickly apologizes, saying that Takumi was caught up in a summoning meant for other people. Takumi is confused, but Lady Nolan explains that the otherworlder's summoning randomly selects from countless targets across multiple worlds. Somehow, Takumi was chosen even though he wasn't on the list. Lady Nolan continues that the summoning spell is very dangerous, and that the laws of Mildgard differ from those of Earth. Her mood switches from happy to angry as she explains. She informs Takumi that she intended to intervene, but she was too late and decided to bring him there. Takumi is curious about the others who were summoned with him, but he learns that they are the rightful targets of the spell and were safely transported to the Holy Sedona Empire, where the spell was activated. Lady Nolan tells him that he was a mistake, something his parents probably wanted to tell him too. Desperate to return home, Takumi asks Lady Nolan to send him back. She apologizes again, explaining that she had to patch things up to prevent the forbidden spell from being used again, which means he cannot return to his world. She also says that he no longer has a physical body to return to. Takumi, who now resembles a ball of tofu, is pissed. He demands to know what will happen to him. Lady Nolan advises him to try life as a resident of Mildgard. Eventually he agrees, and she gives him her blessings as an apology. Lady Nolan tells Takumi that she'll send him to a fantasy world. Takumi is anxious, but Lady Nolan reminds him that she has given him her support. She makes him choose his status, offering him various job options. Takumi selects production job, after which Lady Nolan compiles the necessary skills into a crystal that his tofu self absorbs, but it causes him pain. With a farewell, she sends him to the continent of Asgard. Takumi lands in a field and, upon seeing his reflection in the water, admits to himself that he is hot.
Brother,
He then checks his supplies and status. He decides to test his magic abilities, trying out different types of magic he possesses. As he tries to find his way to the village, Takumi comes across Trand wood, a high-quality wood collected from Trance, the wood monster. Using his blacksmith skills, he converts it into a spear and also realizes that the plants nearby are useful, so he collects them and stores them in his item box. Suddenly, a little girl runs towards him, screaming for help as a massive rabbit chases her. As the rabbit lunges towards them, Takumi strikes it down, causing his level to increase. The girl, Molly, thanks him and explains that she is from Board Village. She had come out to pick herbs but strayed into the forest. Takumi asks if he can go with her and she agrees. She also mentions that the rabbit is edible, so he adds it to his item box as they head towards the village. Meanwhile, in the Holy Sidonia Empire, 3 heroes stand in a large circle. Akane wonders what just happened, while Yamato recalls being enveloped in light. At that moment, a woman emerges from the shadows, welcoming them. She's grateful to them for responding to the summon, but they're confused and request to know where they are. Elizabeth informs them that they are in another world, summoned to use their powers as heroes to save it. She introduces herself as the first empress of the Holy Sidonia Empire. Suddenly, Akane receives a revelation skill, a blessing from Lady Nolan, allowing her to sense that Elizabeth cannot be trusted and is dangerous. Back in Board Village, Banga thanks Takumi for saving his daughter. Takumi requests to stay in the village for a while, and Banga agrees. Bobon, a blacksmith, mentions that there is a vein of ore nearby, a paradise for craftsmen. Takumi thanks them for allowing him to stay. They suggest building Takumi a home since the village doesn't have an inn. They show him a free land space, and Takumi levels the ground, leveling up and acquiring more skills. Everyone is surprised that he has magic, and the men get to work. Once the house is built, Takumi sets up furniture using his skills. He changes his job to alchemist and decides to convert the various ores he obtained from mining with Bobon into ingots. He uses his fire magic to melt the ores, forming them into ingots. Although it's mana-consuming, he feels determined to continue since there's a lot he can use them for. In the next scene, Molly is seen going to Takumi's house. Upon arrival, she finds him sprawled out on the floor looking like some ugly titan from AOT. Takumi receives a scolding from Martha for pushing himself too hard. Banga then gives him a healing potion, and Takumi continues his alchemy without breaks, but has to hold back when Martha or Molly comes to check on him occasionally. He ends up creating numerous ingots, which he then uses to craft utensils and other tools, making his alchemist levels skyrocket. Next, he goes to help Bobon at the workshop to make additional tools. Takumi approaches Banga and asks for a few potions, explaining that he has been trying to make potions for himself using the medicinal herbs he gathered. Banga agrees to buy some from him once Takumi finishes. Takumi goes ahead to prepare a potion, but he notices that the color is different from the one Banga gave him, and he can sense mana in his as well. Takumi decides to almost off himself just to get some purification skills. He heals himself, increasing his light magic skill. Just then, a huge armored bear approaches and attacks him and does not get hurt by any of Takumi's attacks. As Takumi steps back in fear, he hears something in the bushes. It's a poison spider. Takumi is scared, but the spider defends him, though it cannot do much since it's injured. The armored bear still stands, and when it tries to attack Takumi, who is so anxious, Takumi has an idea and casts a decomposition spell on the bear and successfully defeats it. Leveling up. Afterward, he heals the spider, and just as he is about to leave, he receives a notification to tame it. He's surprised but tames it anyway and names it Maple. Takumi returns to the village with the bear, shocking everyone, especially when they see the poison spider on his back. He tells him that he tamed it. Takumi suggests they eat the bear together with the villagers. During the feast, Banga gives Takumi the bear's hide, saying he can sell it in the city. Meanwhile, Lady Nolan observes Takumi and comments that he's doing well. Angel approaches her, inquiring about her plans for Takumi, noting that she granted him a special body and her blessing. Most importantly, she sent him 1 year into the past, before the Holy Sidonia Empire activated their summoning spell. Maple is panicking as she is being scolded by Takumi for binding him while he was asleep. In her defense, she explains that Takumi is always busy, which makes her feel lonely, a very good plot for a horror movie. Takumi realizes she has a point and promises to take a break that day to play with her. Excited, Maple jumps on him, but at that moment Martha walks in and misunderstands the situation, thinking Maple is trying to harm Takumi. After Takumi explains what happened, Martha notices the spider silk from Maple and has an evil look as an idea comes to her. She uses the silk to make a shirt, impressing the other women who praise Maple for it. Martha then tells Takumi that spider silk is a luxury item often used by nobles. On request, Maple produces more silk for Martha. Takumi is surprised to see that Maple can communicate with Martha. He asks Maple to play with him, but she dismisses him, saying she is busy. He could have tied her up too.
What?
But Takumi decides to head out to the workshop to see Boban. Boban makes armor for Takumi, but Takumi reminds him that he is a producer and won't really need it. Boban insists that no producer can safely wander into a forest full of monsters without protection. Bunga also shows up at the workshop. He knows Takumi is planning to leave, having spent about a month with them, and informs him that for his production business to grow, he will need to go to a bigger city where demand is higher. Boban mentions that a trader from Bolton will be arriving the following week, and that they have already arranged for Takumi to ride in the man's carriage. Takumi is grateful to both of them. On his way back, he comes across Martha, who is trying to dispose of an animal part. Despite its deliciousness, because the village lacks the tools to remove parasites and diseases, Takumi uses purification magic to make it edible. Martha is surprised to discover that he possesses light magic, but warns him to be careful about whom he shows it to, as it is rare. Takumi spends the next week using his powers to develop Board Village, making it safer and more convenient for the villagers as a way to thank them for their help. Popek arrives at Board Village, and Banga and Boban go out to greet him. While discussing their business, Takumi interrupts them. Banga introduces him to Popek, the owner of a trading company in Bolton. Takumi hands Banga one of the portions he made, and mentions that he sent about 100 to Banga's house for the villagers. Popek seems interested in the healing portion and examines it. All the villagers come out to bid Takumi farewell. Martha gives him a cloth that they made for him. Takumi thanks all of them and bids them farewell as he joins Popek's carriage. Takumi is grateful to them and calls Board Village his home. Considering Bro was Isekai Ed, he does know how to move on. On the way, Popek introduces Takumi to his crew, Heath, Ryel, and Bogar. They are C-rank adventurers known as Lionfang, and serve as Popek's bodyguards in case they encounter any monsters along the way. They are surprised that Takumi is traveling with a deadly spider, but Ryel is curious to see it. As he looks in the bag, Maple attacks him but then takes a liking to Bogar. Amidst the chaos, Popek asks Takumi if he has those portions in stock, showing interest in buying them. Suddenly, their carriage comes to a halt, causing Takumi to fall. They've encountered a group of goblins. The C-rank adventurers step out and swiftly defeat all the goblins. They continue their journey, and after 3 days of a peaceful ride, they arrive at Bolton. Takumi heads to the Adventurers Guild with the Lionfang members, who go to report their adventures, while Takumi registers with the guild to stay in the city and also registers Maple as a pet. However, he is unable to register as an alchemist, so he settles for Adventurer instead. The Ons, the receptionist, informs him that he can use the card as a form of identification and only needs to take on a simple quest once a month. Takumi agrees and receives his card. He ends up scaring Hans when he tries to register Maple as a pet. At Popek Company, Popek makes a very good offer to Takumi to buy his potions and also recommends a residence with a workshop for him. He calls in Thomas to show Takumi the residence. Takumi is taken aback when he realizes that the residence is a mansion, cause Bro is too broke to afford such. On their way back, Takumi is hit by a terrible smell, which Thomas explains is from the city's sewage. He mentions that nobles use magical purifying devices to treat the sewage from their mansions, but the city's sewage is neglected. He also explains that these magical purifying devices must be excavated from dungeons or ancient ruins, making them too expensive. Some priests are hired to purify the sewage periodically. The next day, Takumi and Maple move into the mansion, and Takumi begins working on the house. He uses his magic to shape a toilet from clay he bought from Popek Company, leveling up. The process consumes a lot of mana, and he has to drink many potions to replenish it. While admiring his restroom, he hears Popek's cries from outside and rushes to see that Maple has him bound in her web. He scolds Maple, only to realize that Popek is, in fact, enjoying the comfort and warmth of the material. Takumi still apologizes to Popek, who then asks to use the restroom. Seconds later, Popek comes out, astonished. He has never seen a restroom like that before. As Takumi explains how it works to Popek, he accidentally mentions that he used purification magic. Popek questions whether Takumi possesses light magic. Recalling Martha's warnings, Takumi asks Popek not to tell anyone about it. Popek agrees, but then requests that Takumi make 100 toilets for the whole city.
Tell him to bring me my money. Yeah!
If you ever feel unwanted in life, remember there's a dude fawning over toilets, you still have a chance. Takumi says he will, as long as he gets the materials. Popek tells him that he will need extra hands, and suggests that Takumi get a contract with a slave. He explains that, considering Takumi's talents and aptitude for light magic, a slave bound to secrecy through contract magic would be best suited for the job. Popek Popek warns Takumi that if the Church of the Divine Light, which heads the Holy Empire of Sidonia, discovers his light magic, they will take him in and exploit him for their profit. Takumi asks if it would be okay to produce the toilets, and Popek replies that he will figure out how to explain it. They need to ensure that the church never finds out Takumi is behind it. Popek presses him to get a contract with the slave. However, Takumi insists that he is against using slaves. Just then, he receives a notification from his guild card, urging him to complete a quest as soon as possible. Realizing he does need extra help, Takumi agrees to go with Popek to the Mulan Company, the most trustworthy slave trader in Bolton. At the company, Takumi wanders into a garden where he meets Sophia, who tells him to go home. Sophia tells Takumi that the Mulan Company is not a place for a child like him. Takumi gets to meet Mulan, the owner. Popek informs her that Takumi needs a slave, but is pretty hesitant about the whole idea of a slave contract. Takumi explains that such arrangements were not done in the land where he was born. Mulan reassures him that the rights of slaves are protected. She goes on to explain the contract and the duties of both the slave and master. It's different from what he had in mind, so he's relieved. Mulan gives him the rundown on the different types of contracts available. Popek suggests that a war slave might be the way to go since they can't be freed without permission from their master. Mulan is curious to know why. The guys spill most of the beans but cleverly leave out the bit about needing someone who won't snitch on Takumi having light skills. Takumi shares that he's looking for someone to manage the mansion and handle all the housework while he's off on adventures, plus someone who can fight and protect him during those adventures. Mulan informs him that he would need 2 slaves. She first introduces him to Maria, who will help him manage the mansion. Maria agrees to work for him and thanks Takumi for choosing her. Mulan then explains that they currently don't have any war slaves available, but Maria adds that they have Sophia. Mulan rebukes her for butting in and tells her to get her things ready. Takumi, curious about Maria's comment, is told by Mulan that Sophia has some issues. Still, he feels a strong urge to meet her, guided by his intuition skills. When they reach Sophia's room, she's surprised to see Takumi. Mulan fills Takumi in on Sophia's situation, including her injuries and curse. Takumi asks for a moment alone with Sophia. Once alone, he introduces himself and then takes a look into her eyes to assess her status. He realizes that if he can heal her and lift her curse, she could be really valuable because she is crazy strong. When Mulan returns, Takumi tells her his decision to form a contract with Sophia too. Although she protests, claiming she can't fight, Takumi assures her that he's willing to help her. Mulan finds it funny that he believes he can solve a problem that has been around for 50 years. Sophia eventually agrees and they finalize the contract. Mulan casts magic on them 3 as proof of the contract. From their interaction, Mulan is glad that they found a good master. Once they arrive home, Maple jumps on Takumi welcoming him, but Sophia is on high alert, thinking that Takumi is under attack. Takumi quickly clarifies that Maple is his pet. He gives the girls a tour of their new room and suggests they take a bath after unpacking. While bathing, Maria says how grateful she is to Mulan for letting Sophia go with her. She adds that Takumi seems like a good person, but Sophia is suspicious of him since she took a peek at the contract and found no information about him. She feels like there's something he's hiding. When they're out, the table is set, but Maria is upset, feeling her job has been taken from her. She compares herself to a toilet and clothes. Takumi reassures her that he'll let her cook next time and that he only prepared the food as a welcome gesture. Sophia feels uneasy about eating at the same table as Takumi, but he tells her that he's okay with it and would be happy if they went along with it. He also tells them not to call him master. However, Sophia is still cautious around him. The next day, at Popek Company, Popek gives Takumi an item he had ordered. On his way home, he comes across a church and decides to check it out. He sees the statue of Lady Nolan and prays to it. He then questions her why she badmouthed the Holy Empire of Sidonia, especially since they control the religion of the country. Suddenly, he's pulled back into the cloudy realm. He is surprised, but Lady Nolan tells him she called him up nice and quick to answer his question. She informs him that she isn't involved with Sidonia or the Church of Divine Light. Instead, she explains the difference between the Church of Creation, which has always worshipped her from the start, and the later established Church of Divine Light that worships a non-existent god, Anat. As their conversation continues, she warns Takumi that as he expands his world, parts of the blessing she granted him will come undone, leading him to encounter more challenges ahead and people with ill intentions. Takumi realizes that everyone he's met so far has been great thanks to her blessing. Takumi understands that it's up to him to determine how events play out going forward. Meanwhile, 1 year later at the Holy Empire of Sidonia, the Lord is getting updates that the newly summoned heroes are in training. They were initially hesitant due to their confusion after being summoned, but have started loosening up thanks to Elizabeth's encouragement. In the training field, heroes Yamato and Akira are training, while Akane is approached by Elizabeth, who tells her to join the training, saying strength is important in saving their world. Back in the past, at Takumi's mansion, an unexpected hug from Maple as he returns from visiting Papik sends him falling over. In the chaos, the contents of his bag fall out. While Maria rushes over to check on him, Sophia is quick to help gather the scattered items. Just as she is about to grab a mysterious gift wrapped in magical paper, Takumi swiftly stores it away in his item box. Sophia senses that the item is wrapped in magical wrapping paper, making her even more suspicious of Takumi. Takumi excuses himself to the workshop and Sophia follows him. She sees him creepily cutting himself with a knife dipped in portion, then healing himself. Takumi makes a comment about Maria doing something cruel, and Sophia misunderstands. She immediately knocks him to the ground and questions what he is planning to do with Maria, but faints due to exhaustion. Takumi heals her little cut and he levels up, just what he needs to cure her. He carries her inside and dispels her curse, curing her. Her ear grows back out. Later that day, Sophia wakes up. She confesses to feeling light and asks how she got there. Maria fills her in, and at the mention of Takumi, Sophia warns Maria to stay away from him as he's dangerous. But Maria quickly corrects her, letting her know how Takumi had cured her. Sophia then goes out to find Takumi and he explains everything to her. He tells her about the portion he got from Papek and how Maria threw away his medical herbs thinking they were trash, which is why he said she was cruel. Sophia then pledges her loyalty to Takumi. In Mildgard 1 year later, Takumi is in the library reading about alchemy, but there are limited books available. He realizes that the reason alchemy is no longer practiced is that it is based on the writings of an ancient magical civilization. However, he can understand all the languages because he was reincarnated into this world. After returning home, Takumi makes several toilets for the city. He informs Maria of his plans to embark on a journey to find materials and meals unique to certain places. He tells her he will be taking Sophia and Maple along while she manages the house. Maria does not like the idea of being left alone and pleads with him to take her, acting cute and all. Takumi is also worried about leaving Maria alone, so he checks her stats and realizes that she has potential and could be helpful with some training. Sophia offers to train her because she also wants Maria to join them on the journey. Takumi decides to make some weapons for them. He asks for their weapon preferences, and Sophia provides a detailed description of what she wants, while Maria just requests for short knives. Sophia then advises her to get a spear as well. Takumi begins working on the weapons while Sophia trains Maria. The production consumes a lot of Takumi's mana, but he levels up in several skills. He drinks a portion to regain strength. Takumi adds special touches to the blades for both Maria and Sophia and casts an auto-repair spell on them as a finishing touch. While working on Maria's short knives, he pictures her having them on her thighs, and of Maria's thighs makes his nose bleed.
We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
Next, he attempts to create their armor but needs their measurements. Not wanting to ask for them directly, he brings out dolls that resemble them, which he made from his item box. Creepy much. He starts working on the dolls using maple spider silk. After several days of work, he finishes the armor, and when they try it on, they suspect something since it fits so well. Maple tries to snitch on him, but he stops her and lies that it's thanks to the spider silk. He gives them their weapons, and they're both satisfied with it. Takumi feels proud of his work and also presents them with rings that will help them cast magic, as they are imbued with mana. Next, they head to the Adventure Guild to register Sophia and Maria. Hans provides them with their guild cards, and they start as H-rank members. Takumi registers them as a party, and Hans reminds him of the earlier message they sent. Takumi says that is part of the reason he came as well. They check out the available H and G quests, but they are approached by some bullies who tell Sophia and Maria to leave Takumi and follow them instead, as they're in a higher rank than Takumi. Takumi steps up to protect the two. He's scared shitless, but he's willing to do that much for people precious to him. The huge man punches Takumi, but he protects himself in a crystal, causing the man to hurt himself instead. Meanwhile, Takumi levels up. The guildmaster, Barak, intervenes and initially blames Takumi. However, Maria defends him, stating that he didn't do anything wrong. Hans, who had been watching, also defends Takumi and introduces the guildmaster to them. The injured man is taken away to be healed. Barak asks to see Takumi in his office, where he questions him about the incident. Takumi hesitates, but the guildmaster assures him that personal information will be protected. Eventually, Takumi explains that he used charcoal from his item box, synthesized it into diamond, and coated his upper body with it. Hans recalls that when Takumi first arrived, he wanted to join an alchemist guild. He suggests that the guildmaster promote Takumi to rank D, and with the guildmaster's approval, they are assigned quests that will help them rank up more easily. Takumi and his crew set out on their mission, which involves exterminating goblins and kobolds and gathering morel herbs. Maple, who is spying on the goblins, informs Takumi, and Sophia attacks the goblins, taking them down. With Maple's assistance, Maria and Takumi also defeat some goblins. They earn their reward and have taken down enough goblins, but Sophia wants to do more. She is after the goblin general, so they agree to invade the goblin camp despite Takumi's initial hesitation. Before heading out, Maple informs Takumi that she's going to evolve soon, so he puts her in a pocket dimension to rest. The three of them set out for the goblin camp and, from their hideout, use their various magics to eliminate the goblins. The goblin general and goblin knights emerge. Sophia easily defeats the knights while the goblin general lunges at Takumi. As he fights the goblin general, he is leveling up rapidly. With the rate at which he's leveling up, one would think he'd be a match for Song Jinwoo. In the end, he defeats the general using fire magic. By evening, they successfully complete all their quests. Surprising Hans, he takes them to meet Barak, who scolds them for exterminating an entire goblin squad, a job meant for multiple rank D or higher members. He is interrupted when Maple strikes him from the pocket dimension. She then reveals herself, now transformed into a half-girl and half-spider. Maria is happy to see her. Hans informs them that he will prepare their reward, and Takumi has been promoted to rank E, while the ladies rank F. Back at the mansion, Maria requests scrap clothes from Takumi to make underwear for herself and Sophia. Takumi suggests using spider silk, but Maria believes that material is too valuable for that. The conversation grows tense, especially when Takumi sketches a design for the underwear he could make for them. Maria's reaction makes him feel as though he has crossed a line, but she surprises him by agreeing to it. Just then, Maple peeks out from the pocket dimension and informs Takumi about Popek's arrival. Takumi finds Popek passed out on the ground, and Maple explains that it's because he was shocked by her new appearance. When Popek awakens, he tells Takumi that the Lord of Bolton, Godwin Marquis, has requested to see him. This is regarding the purification magic devices, the toilets. Takumi reminds Popek that he had a plan to handle the situation without interference from the Holy Empire of Sidonia. However, it turns out that Godwin, the Lord of Bolton, was part of that plan. Reluctantly, Takumi decides to visit Godwin. The Lord thanks him for all he has done for the city, as his product has significantly improved sanitation. He even bows to Takumi, but Takumi asks him not to do that. Godwin advises Takumi to prioritize his own safety going forward, stating that if anything were to happen to him, it would be a great loss for the entire land of Bolton and the kingdom. Godwin warns Takumi not to let his guard down, especially when the Holy Empire of Sidonia starts coming after him. When Takumi returns home, he is exhausted, but Maple reminds him that he still needs to finish making the underwear. By the time he finally completes the task, he is so worn out that he looks like a zombie and collapses on the table. Both Maria and Sophia love the underwear, and Takumi encourages them to try it on. He soon realizes that suggesting that was inappropriate and apologizes like a maniac. Sophia and Maria tease him about it, and he can't help but picture them wearing the underwear in his mind, causing him to run to his room embarrassed. He assumes that his feelings might be because Lady Nolan's blessing is coming undone. Then a thought crosses his mind. Perhaps he could wear them instead. The next day, Takumi uses magic to create 3 refrigerators, impressing Sophia, Maria, and Maple, who have never seen anything like it before. Maria is delighted that she'll be able to cook with fresh ingredients anytime she wants. They choose a refrigerator to keep, and Takumi takes the rest to Popek's office. He tells him that he plans to upgrade their equipment for their travels, as they need to have the best weapons. He also mentions his plans to make new armor using mithril and adamantite. At the guild, Hans informs Takumi that those ores are rare, but he promises to give him a list of blacksmiths living in the outskirts before he leaves. He tells Takumi it'll be easier to mine the ores himself, and tells him about a city called Horus, located northwest of Kingdom Bracula, which has a mine where he can extract the ores. Hans adds that he cannot enter the mine unless he is a member of the Blacksmiths Guild. However, he mentions a loophole. Takumi can accept a quest to defeat the monsters that occasionally appear there, which would allow him entry. This way, he can fulfill his quest quota while also extracting ore. At this moment, Barak suddenly appears and interrupts them. He offers to promote Takumi to rank D if he defeats the Tret monsters on his way to Horus, and says he can use space-time magic to transport the wood back to them. Takumi agrees and is also told to take on the job of a bodyguard for a blacksmith who will be traveling to Horus. While they're discussing, Riel shows up, and Takumi is glad to see him. Hans is surprised because Riel is supposed to be on a mission, but he tells him that they defeated a black buffalo on the way, so he had to carry it back before it would rot. He informs them that he'll head back out the next morning to join Heath and the others. Takumi offers Riel to stay at his place for the night, where he can enjoy a nice bath, and Riel accepts. Takumi tells him he'll have to make a stop before going home. At Papik Trading Company, Papik tells Takumi that he will lend him a carriage from their company along with monster horses that are twice as fast as regular horses. In return, Papik asks Takumi to sell some of the ores he mines to them. Takumi agrees, and Papik also requests more refrigerators. As night falls, Sophia worries that Takumi has not yet returned home and fears something might have happened to him. Meanwhile, as Takumi and Riel make their way home at night, Riel suddenly feels a strange presence and instinctively halts. Lacking the equipment to confront the person, he grabs Takumi and runs. The figure turns out to be Sophia, who attacks Riel thinking he is a threat to Takumi. However, Takumi stops her before any harm can be done. Both Sophia and Takumi later apologize to Riel. At the mansion, Riel expresses his jealousy over the fact that Takumi gets to be surrounded by several pretty women. He is also surprised at how much Maple has changed. Takumi tells him that they are not his girlfriends, and Riel tries to shoot his shit but is rejected by all of them. While Riel enjoys his bath, Takumi shares all the details about his discussions at the guild, and everyone is down for it. The next morning, Riel sets out to rejoin his crew, and Takumi sends his regards to Heath and Bogar. Next, Takumi attempts to forge a mana-draining sword into smaller pieces, but the sword resists him. After another attempt, he manages to convert it into a germ and further forge it into 2 small blades. He is drained. 3 days later, at the North Gate in Bolton, Takumi sets out in the carriage provided by Popek. He meets a blacksmith named Dagambo, whom he is supposed to escort to Horus. Meanwhile, the guild receives news that the monsters in the Forest of Death have become more active. Unfortunately, Takumi has already left, and Barak is worried, knowing it's already dangerous enough to face Trance. They can only hope he doesn't encounter more advanced species. At Papek Company, Papek learns that the king was pleased with the toilet that he sent as a tribute. However, they also hear that word about it has reached the Holy Empire of Sidonia. Several months later, in the Holy Empire of Sidonia, the heroes train fiercely, but Akane still keeps her eyes on Elizabeth. Back in the past, Takumi and his team arrive in the forest to hunt Trance. He sets up a protective barrier around the carriage for Dagambo's safety. As they walk through the forest, Sophia explains the differences between treants and ordinary trees. She points out one, and Takumi attacks it. While Sophia and Maria protect him from the tree's strikes, more Trank trees appear and they fight them off. Although the Elder Trank proves to be much more challenging to defeat as it constantly regenerates, Takumi ultimately finishes it off with his flaming knives. They collect the treant fruits after the battle. Finally, the next day, they arrive at the mining town of Horus and head to the branch of the Adventurers Guild. There, they accept a quest in the mine, granting them access to the mine where they can continue mining the different ores. While mining, they are attacked by a mole, which they easily defeat. They are then able to mine a huge load of ore without any further interruption, after which they safely return to Bolton. The next day, Takumi goes to Dagambo's workshop, where Dagambo teaches him the basis of synthesizing and forging mithril and adamantine alloys. He is able to make a mithril knife and forge it with his fire element. Takumi spends many hours and days on the synthesis and producing armor using the ores. Sophia and Maria are really grateful for all the work he's done. He then shows them an improvement he made on his armor, which makes him run fast like lightning. He probably feels like the new Flash until he eventually runs into a wall. Takumi gives Maria and Sophia the weapons he worked on for them. Sophia reassures him that she'd sacrifice her life for him, so she requests for a sturdy shield and Takumi agrees to do it for her, but tells her that she should value her life and put herself first. 1 year later, at the Holy Empire of Sidonia, the heroes are ready to set out for the kingdom of Samandor. The Lord of Sidonia gives them a Knot's blessing. Meanwhile, back at Bolton, Takumi is exhausted from all the work he has done, and Sophia feels bad for requesting a shield. She wishes he had an assistant to help him in the workshop. News has reached the lands of Sidonia regarding Barcula's innovative method of purifying sewage using magical devices. A messenger sent by the Pope of the Church of Divine Light has arrived to discuss this matter with the king. According to the messenger, the Pope has concerns about the rumors surrounding this practice and has prohibited the use of light magic. However, the king remains indifferent to the situation. He refuses to disclose the identity of the person responsible for creating the devices and shows little concern about the possibility of the Pope withdrawing all priests from Barcula. Hearing this from Papik, Takumi feels uneasy as he is concerned if it is okay for the king to take a stand that much against the church. Papik explains that there are two religions in Barcula, the Church of Creation, who worship the goddess Nolan, and the Church of Divine Light, who worship the goddess Anat. Papik adds that Barcula allows for freedom of religion and that the majority of the population leans towards the Church of Creation. The Church of Creation offers recovery magic for a little more than a show of appreciation, but the Church of Divine Light basically extorts money with its expensive services. Papik gets to the main reason he came to Takumi. The king has requested to see Takumi. It isn't an order, so it's up to Takumi to accept or not. Papik finishes this by pulling off some weird puppy eyes to convince Takumi, but it's like when John Cena tries to make puppy eyes, awkwardly intense. You're sitting there wondering if you should pet him or just hand him a cookie for attempting to look innocent.
Are you sure about that?
Takumi tells Sophia, Maria, and Mabel about his meeting with the king, and they are all excited as it'll be their first time going to the royal capital. Takumi also mentions that with the dark magic elemental stone, he'll craft cloaks for them all. The cloaks will serve a couple of purposes like block perception and help them to be avoidable by bad people. Maria is out shopping with Sophia in preparation for their trip. In the course of their discussion, Maria says she feels Takumi doesn't value himself highly enough. Sophia agrees and goes ahead to list Takumi's good qualities, but before getting to her point, Maria steps into God mode taunting. She teases Sophia about being in love with Takumi. Takumi is praying to Nolan at the Church of Creation. Just then, Nolan summons him. She playfully asks for offerings, but Takumi mentions he has questions. He asks if Nolan is Anat, but Nolan replies that she is the only goddess, adding that Takumi will know who Anat is in due time. Takumi is confused, and Nolan seems slightly agitated at his curiosity. Takumi quickly mentions that he feels the Holy Empire of Sidonia is getting closer to him. Recalling what she said before about some of her blessings becoming undone by his actions, he asks if the interference from Sidonia was because of this. Nolan tells Takumi that he's in mild guard due to Sidonia, which is beyond the blessing's power. Concerned about potential chaos, Takumi asks about the summoned heroes. Nolan reveals she manipulated time, sending him a year before their summoning, which leaves Takumi confused about her motives. Nolan informs him that his time is up and bids farewell. Takumi awakens at the church, feeling that Nolan avoided his question and deciding it doesn't matter since he doesn't plan to meet the heroes. 10 months after Takumi's present time, at the Holy Empire of Sidonia, the hero Akira seems to be doing pretty well with his training. Yamato and Akane watch from the sidelines, but it seems Yamato is envious of Akira's progress and Akane notices. Takumi is done with the cloaks, and they all love it. It has a lot of abilities and enhancements. They're even more amazed as Takumi discloses that he is going to be making a carriage, a long-lasting one, and not all that Lord of the Rings type of stuff. The man has got big plans. The only setback is the unavailability of a monster to pull the carriage, but Takumi will resort to borrowing from the guild. But Maria excitedly informs him that they can get some amazing monsters at the Death of Death just outside Bolton. Takumi and the others set out to find a monster for the carriage. Sophia and Maria fill Takumi in on the Drake horse, which makes him look forward to getting one. Maple is really excited about this and goes ahead of the rest of them, ordering them to hurry. Just then, a bush wolf jumps out of the forest. Sophia and the others get on alert, but the wolf just runs past them. Takumi deduces that the cloak made them imperceptible and praises it, but Sophia takes it off as they have to fight in order to train. Further into the forest, they notice a fallen treant tree. Takumi and the others quickly start taking it apart to take the useful parts. They're all caught up that they don't notice when the eager Maple gets fed up and goes ahead on her own. As Maple explores the area, she notices many fallen trees and monsters. She hears a sound and decides to follow it, discovering a wounded Drake horse lying on the ground. When she approaches, the horse becomes defensive. This situation reminds Maple of the first time she met Takumi, so she begins to speak to the creature about him. Suddenly, a group of monsters attacks them, likely the ones responsible for injuring the Drake horse. Determined to protect it, Maple fights back. Together, she and the horse team up against the monsters, only to realize that even more enemies are approaching. Surrounded by monsters, Maple raises a shield to protect herself and the horse. Unfortunately, the shield isn't sustainable. The monsters quickly begin to tear it apart. Despite her urgent calls for Takumi and the others, there is no response, leading Maple to feel abandoned. She worries that they've forgotten about her and gone home without her. Just as the shield crumbles completely, she takes cover with the horse. Unexpectedly, Takumi pats her head, giving a warm smile. They had come to her rescue, and Maple is surprised at first and then overjoyed. He apologizes for being late after explaining the situation. They spot the Drake horse, which is now unconscious. Takumi attempts to heal it, but his magic gets repelled. Sophia senses more monsters approaching. They need to leave the forest immediately. They can't leave the horse behind, so Takumi sends it to the pocket dimension together with Maple. Sophia warns that pulling something like that off could cause serious strain on Takumi's body, but Takumi assures her that he is fine and will renew his energy with a portion. Famous last words before he passed out. After the incident, Takumi has been unconscious for several hours, causing concern for Maria and Sophia. The pocket dimension remains active while Takumi is out, and Sophia points out that unless Maple opens it, the Drake horse horse will stay trapped inside, putting Takumi's well-being at risk. This situation is critical, as Takumi had instructed Maple to remain in the pocket dimension until he called for her. Sophia insists that they take action. She connects with Maple using Takumi's mana. The plan is for Maple to bring the horse out of the pocket dimension and create a barrier, just like she did in the forest, to prevent the Drake horse from being frightened by the unfamiliar environment. Maple understands the situation and takes action, while Sophia heads to the Papate company to get some medicine. Just as she is about to leave, Maria encourages her to let her handle the errands and stay with Takumi instead. After a while, Takumi wakes up to see Sophia, who is surprised to see him awake. He expresses his gratitude for having everyone around, noting that they seem to have given their best effort. He indicates that he's ready to get to work with the Drake horse. Meanwhile, Maria lingers by the door, feeling emotional as she exaggerates the chemistry between Sophia and Takumi. Takumi meets the Drake horse and introduces himself, with Maple in the background. The Drake monster trusts them, and Takumi tames it without any stress. He proceeds to heal it, and the horse is back in shape. Maple asks Takumi to name the horse, and following the pattern he used for naming Maple, he decides to call the horse Camellia. Everyone loves the name. In a slave trading company, a potential buyer interviews a slave girl, Reva, a beastman with magical aptitude. He inquires about her skills, but Reva lacks confidence and promises to improve. The buyer loses interest, preferring someone immediately useful, and leaves. Reva feels downcast and apologizes to her master for disappointing him. Her master comforts her, assuring her that a good master will come someday, but she doubts him, as he's made that promise for a decade. Reva's mind drifts to memories of her parting ways with her brother. She promised to send lots of money back home, and as such is frustrated as things aren't going well. She glances at a symbol in her alchemist book thoughtfully. It turns out Takumi is working using the same magical symbol. The next day, Takumi has breakfast alongside Sophia, Maria, and Maple. He is to head out to Dagobo's workshop to finish up the work on the carriage he has been working on. Although Takumi assures that he is fine, Sophia and Maria are still very worried about him, as he's had very little time to rest of late. He takes his lead and bids them farewell. Takumi stops by the guild. On getting inside, he overhears a man making a complaint to the guild master. Making it to the counter, Takumi asks Hans about it. Hans mentions there have been reports of sightings of a creature on the outskirts of the village, and hands Takumi a weird sketch of it from the descriptions they got. It really is a weird sketch, heavily resembling an ugly fat root, but there hasn't been any confirmation or reports of casualties yet. Getting to business, Hans asks why Takumi came, and Takumi answers that he came to register another pet. Hans is impressed, and before he can complete talking about how he isn't going to be surprised at the new one because Takumi tamed a poison spider before, Maple and Camellia pop out of the pocket dimension. Hans is stunned, as they both resemble the sketch of the creature. Yes, the ugly fat root sketch, that sketch. Everyone freaks out. Barak, looking constipated, summons Takumi. Sophia is on her quest to find Takumi a new slave. As she walks, she has a flashback from her conversation with Mulan, her previous slave master, earlier. After mentioning that they don't have a slave with the specifics Sophia needs, Mulan adds that Sophia has changed a lot since her contract with Takumi. Just then, Sophia crosses paths with Maria, who is out shopping. As they walk, they discuss how much work Takumi has been doing lately, overexerting himself. They all wish to assist him in anywhere they can. Maria playfully mentions as well that Sophia has really changed, adding that her expressions have softened. Sophia gets uncomfortable with all the teasing from Maria and dodges the conversation, asking Maria to make haste with her shopping. Finally linking up with Takumi, they are stunned to find him exhausted and asleep. The Gumball mentions that Takumi has been overworking, adding that if he keeps it up, he just might collapse one day. Sophia and Maria are really worried. The carriage is done and revealed. Takumi kindly mentions that he'd like Camellia to pull the carriage, and through Maple, they're able to communicate. Camellia agrees and is on board. Just then, Maria, who is inspecting the interior of the carriage, pops out like she has just seen a ghost, or probably a weird creature that looks like an ugly fat root. She mentions that it is too amazing, and Sophia adds that it is a bit too much. Takumi had enchanted the interior with a space expansion spell, making the inside way wider than it looked from the outside, giving Pocket Monster vibes. Small on the outside, but on the inside, has enough room for an entire Pokemon gym. They're all amazed as the carriage contains regular house features and is cozy. The ride is smooth and fine, and Camellia definitely has fun pulling the carriage, leveling up gradually as she's been running for days. Takumi and the others meet up with the Lion Fangs. Takumi expresses his comfort given that the Lion Fangs are going to be their escort. They are amazed at Camilla. Just then, Papek arrives with Lord Godwin, and Takumi offers pleasantries. Papek, who had earlier complimented the carriage, asks to check it out. Papek goes all crazy after seeing the interior. He's all over Takumi asking for the details when Lord Godwin restrains him. Lord Godwin compliments the carriage and further asks for one for himself, offering enough money for it. The kind of money that could make Nami abandon the Strahd crew, leaving Zoro to navigate the ship.
Yeah, boy.
They begin their journey to the royal capital. Lord Godwin discusses how successful Takumi is and how he'll achieve greater things, further standing out in the world. Seeing as this will eventually attract bad things, Lord Godwin vows to protect Takumi. Although he can fend off bad people within his territory, he worries about other nations, especially the Holy Empire of Sidonia, as he can't know what they're up to. Several months ahead of Takumi's present, Akane reads on the history of the goddess Anat. The goddess Anat created man in her own image, and beastmen to serve man, and then created dwarfs and elves from sprites, placing them beneath mankind. Just as she reads, Lulu walks in. Akane walks to her. Noticing a collar on Lulu's neck disturbs and upsets Akane. Takumi and the others arrive at the royal capital. The journey was smooth, with no disturbances, as Sophia and the others had everything handled, even leaving nothing for the Lion Fangs. Papek mentions to Takumi that he has something to discuss personally when they're settled. Papek proposes to offer the king something similar to the carriage, as the only strategic way to make the king notice Takumi's exceptional talent. They'll have an audience with the king in 5 days, and considering it'll be a lot of work for such a limited time, Papek feels it's okay if Takumi starts when they're back in Bolton. But Takumi is positive he can finish in time, adding that if they made the carriage in Bolton, they'd have to haul it back to the royal capital. Takumi's only lack is a workspace, and Papek promises to handle that. Takumi discusses with Sophia and Maria about the Palpum Slave Trade Company, the space Papek offered to him to use. Sophia is familiar with the company as well as its trustworthiness. Sophia and Maria seem like there's been something bugging them, so they speak up. Sophia expresses her desire for Takumi to get an assistant to help with his production. She and Maria can only do so much if he can't take care of himself. Sophia suggests he tries the Palpum Company. Takumi understands, appreciating them for their concern. They specifically request that the assistant be a girl. A typical Sanji dream team. The next day, Takumi is at the company to get an assistant. Following his needs description, a slave with magical aptitude would fit. Meanwhile, Maple has strayed off, leaving Maria and Sophia worried. Sophia's search for Maple leads her into the company building, where she walks into Reva, scared half to death by Maple. Although Maple tries to explain that she wouldn't hurt her, Reva looks like she has just seen 2015's The Fantastic Four. After scolding Maple, Sophia helps Reva up and apologizes. Once Reva recovers from the scare, she's captivated by Sophia's presence. Sophia picks up Reva's ancient alchemy book. Surprised, Reva excitedly shares about it. Takumi encounters Sophia on his way to meet the candidate and asks her to join him. It turns out that the candidate is Reva. Reva is feeling tense. She fears that if she doesn't secure a contract this time, she won't be able to support her family. In the course of Takumi's introduction, he mentions that he majors production using alchemy. Reva's sudden gain of confidence upon hearing the word alchemy is shattered as she remembers what the previous buyer said. Sophia speaks for Reva, noting her independent study of magic and alchemy. Though she forgets the book's name, Takumi and Reva recall it together and enthusiastically discuss various alchemy-related things. To test her knowledge, Takumi presents her with a picture of an alchemy circle and asks her to identify its purpose. Although she has an idea, the fear of failing to answer correctly and facing rejection creates a lot of pressure. Ultimately, she breaks down in tears and admits that she doesn't know what it is for. To her surprise, Takumi decides to have her. She's confused as she didn't get the alchemy circle correctly, but it turns out her analysis wasn't far off. Takumi commends her for being able to identify it at a glance. Reva is overjoyed and pledges to do her best to assist Takumi as they finalize their contract. When discussing the wage payment system, Reva requests that all her wages be sent back home. She explains that she comes from a very poor village and became a debt slave to help her family financially. However, she knows that this support won't last forever. Her greatest wish is for her family to live well, which is why she wants all her wages sent to them. Takumi worries Reva might be trapped in servitude, but Sophia urges him to respect her decision. She mentions that Reva can earn money with her abilities when she improves her skills while working with Takumi. Takumi listens and ultimately agrees. Maria and Maple go all crazy on Reva, welcoming her and introducing themselves. In the present time, at the Holy Empire of Sidonia, the Lord receives reports of the Kingdom of Barkilla acting up. The Lord commands that the situation be dealt with immediately. However, his daughter Elizabeth interrupts, urging caution. She explains that they should avoid any rash actions since they are about to summon the heroes. The Lord argues that the matter cannot be left unresolved, but Elizabeth offers an alternative. She proposes spreading rumors about someone disrespecting the Church of Divine Light to incite believers, forcing the Divine Light Squadron to act. Her grin makes the Joker look like a saint. Takumi completes producing the framework of the carriage. Reva is very intrigued by the process and is even more amazed as Takumi explains the procedure. Takumi assures her that she'll get to his level someday. On the day of Takumi's audience with the king, Takumi stares at the finished carriage in admiration. Just then, the king approaches him casually and asks if the carriage is his. Takumi doesn't know he's the king and corrects that it will be presented to the king, adding that he made it. The king says Takumi is even better than he has been described. Takumi is surprised the stranger knows his name, and just then, Papek and Lord Godwin come running, addressing the stranger as the king. The king formally introduces himself as King Lobos Barkula. Takumi is so surprised that he freaks out, almost as if he realized he had just killed John Wick's dog. Although the king doesn't want Takumi to be too formal as they're in an informal setting, the dude Takumi just isn't working. Papek and Lord Godwin join Takumi, asking why the king didn't meet them as planned, and the king's reply is that the entire official process is just too formal and dull. Getting to business, the king mentions he wanted to meet Takumi and thank him in person for his help in resolving the royal capital's sewage problem. Normally, he would throw a banquet and reward Takumi, but he won't now in order not to draw too much unwanted attention to Takumi. Takumi is very grateful and happy that both the king and the lord are humble and down to earth. The king did reward Takumi, and he and his team are heading back from the royal capital. The king orders that his meeting with Takumi be kept a secret, although it is known that sooner or later Takumi's influence will spread far once his magical products are exported. At that time, the Church of Divine Light will definitely act. Several days after returning to Bolton, Takumi fully purchases his rented house, and it becomes his proper home. Maria and Sophia come up with this crazy but modest idea of not receiving their regular wages. Maria mentions that Takumi does enough already by providing for basically everything at home, hence she's okay with her regular allowances. Sophia agrees. Takumi is surprised. Who wouldn't be? He asks if they wouldn't want to save up, even if not for the present, but for after the end of their contract, but these girls start talking about graves. Sophia mentions that she'll outlive Takumi, being an elf, and then she'll spend the rest of her days protecting his grave. And Maria wishes she'd live at least a day after Takumi passes on so she can have her grave beside his. Takumi, naturally, is just phased. The magical device created by Takumi to purify Bolton's sewage eventually gets to Elizabeth at the Holy Empire of Sidonia, as her informant had infiltrated Bacalados. She sees this as an offense, wondering if the offenders have no respect for her not, and recalls how disturbed her father, Pope Walbar, is about it. The Divine Squadron will be on it, and Elizabeth, for one, is glad. Reva wants to join the Adventurers Guild to increase her stats and be able to help everyone out. Takumi agrees and takes her to get it. Reva is grateful and thanks Hans for sending her wages home to her family. It's fine by Hans as he does the same for quite several adventurers. Hans, in a switch of discussion topics, asks Takumi to choose a name for his team and praises the team's rank. Takumi is clueless and doesn't really want to get into all the whole adventurers stuff. Just then, Barak pops up like an ad offering to train Takumi, although he clearly isn't in support of that. Takumi's behind is getting beat across the entire space as his training commences. Barak asks him at intervals to come up with a name for his guild, but Takumi keeps on suggesting names way worse than the Justice Buddies. Takumi explains the story to Sophia and the rest, but I think everyone can tell he was tuned up a bit as he looks like an already chewed chewing gum. Maria's team name suggestions are even more terrible. They might make Barak cry. Sophia is enraged and is ready to take it up with Barak, but Takumi explains the pros of the encounter, mentioning that some of his stats have improved. At the Holy Empire of Sidonia, months after Takumi's present time, the heroes train and Elizabeth looks impressed at the outcome. Akira and Yamato are neck deep in these trainings, but Akane is more sensible. She has already observed that Akira has changed a lot and is curious, trying to deduce the reason why they were summoned by the church. Back at Bolton, Takumi hands Reva the signature team ring to help her activate spells as well as a staff. They are really impressive, and Reva is thankful. Maple gets hers as well before she's done with her jealousy episode, a weapon that helps her manipulate her threads. Takumi's training, or rather torture, continues. The name suggestions are all bad, and Takumi's clobbering session is hell. Just as he fears Sophia might not be able to hold back watching the beatdown, she speaks up, giving him ideas and pointers for the fight. Did it help? Of course not. Takumi is all beat up and miserable as his servants try to salvage the situation. Hans mentions that there's an escort work, and Barak suggests Takumi and his team take it as it'll help boost their stats. Although Lionfangs owns this job, Hans says that they have other businesses. Takumi is undecided, but his team's willingness to carry out the task makes him accept the job. Takumi and his team are out on their escort mission. On the way, Takumi learns that milk and cheese are available at the destination. The feeling of nostalgia surges with a bit of excitement. As they travel, they notice monsters up ahead. Goblins and bush wolves are having some territorial conflict. It's no big deal, and Camellia clears them out in one hit. Yeah, cleared them out. Not resolving the conflict and teaching them values and a bunch of stuff related to the power of friendship, they arrive at Kilbis, the destination. They all sit enjoying the meal. The meal really does hit close to home, and Takumi mentions they should get cheese and milk on their way back. It has only been a few months since Takumi arrived in this world, but to him, it feels like years. He admits he's never returning to his world, although the food makes him nostalgic for his real world. Just then, the thought of rice crosses his mind, and after he confirms it's available, he explodes in regret as it is being sold in the royal capital, and he didn't get it when he was there. Getting serious, Takumi asks Sophia if she has ever felt nostalgic about her hometown's food. Sophia explains she has had rough times for the past 50 years, and it all changed when she had a contract with Takumi. She enjoys everything they have going on, and mentions there's no point in looking to the past but to the future. Figuratively, she says Takumi has given her wings to fly. In one way or the other, Takumi has impacted all of them, including the quarreling monster killer Camellia. Looking at everything, Takumi can agree that in some way he was also given wings by Nolan. Figuratively, of course, not like she handed him spicy wings or anything. Just then, Takumi gets an idea for their team name, Wings of Nolan. He suggests the name, explaining that they've been moving forward because they've given each other wings, again figuratively. It has a nice ring to it and they all love and accept the name. Their escort mission is complete and they head back to Bolton. 2 days later, Takumi steps into their home, immediately sensing the presence of paralysis poison. His attention is drawn to a voice telling him not to move. There are 2 strangers in his home, and Sophia and the others are down and held at knife point. One of the strangers approaches Takumi and is about to attack him when his weapon gets zapped out of his hand. Takumi seizes this opportunity and takes the stranger down. The remaining stranger suffers the same fate. Takumi thanks Maple for her assistance. Zapping off the stranger's weapon, he quickly heals the others. On getting back up on her feet, Sophia quickly apologizes, although Takumi mentions that it isn't her fault. Takumi and Maple have poison and paralysis resistance, which is why they weren't affected. Maple asks what they should do about the strangers outside. She saw them lurking, so she hid in the pocket dimension, which is how she saw Sophia and the rest get attacked. Sophia deduces that the attack was a planned and precise one, and suggests they get the assistance of the Adventurers Guild. The strangers are bundled up and taken away by the Adventurers Guild. Garak suggests Takumi reports the issue to the Lord, as it is a really major issue. The situation is serious, and Takumi knows this. At the Bolton Lord's mansion, Godwin informs Takumi that the intruders from last night are actually the Divine Light Squadron sent by the Holy Empire of Sidonia. Takumi realizes they were not there to borrow a cup of sugar, they were after his head. Godwin says it seems the reason for the attack was the toilets Takumi created. Previously, there was a need to regularly use light magic to purify the settling tanks of the sewers beneath the city, and the Church of Divine Light usually demanded a hefty sum. Barak explains that Takumi has taken away a major source of revenue for them. Takumi starts contemplating a little getaway to another nation for safety, but Godwin reassures him that he's safe in Bolton. Dorn says the Knights will increase surveillance and they'll also strictly monitor who comes and goes from the city. Barak is pleased, saying they won't need to worry about Takumi's safety while adventuring, but Takumi had been thinking of putting adventuring on hold. Barak quickly shoots that idea down, insisting that Takumi's party is one of the top 5 in town, and not having them around would hurt the guild. As they ride back in the carriage, Takumi can't help but get lost in his thoughts. He knows that Sidonia's Church of Divine Light is after him, and he feels awful that the girls got caught up in the chaos because of him. At the Adventurers Guild, Hans is impressed by their party's name, but also shares the unsettling news that word of the attack has spread, along with rumors of a large bounty on Takumi's head. He cautions him to be careful, as not all adventurers are loyal to the guild. During dinner, Takumi apologizes for getting them into trouble, but the girls brush off his concerns. He feels bad about relying on the knights to guard the mansion forever, so he's thinking of creating a magical device to erect a magical barrier around the mansion to keep out unregistered visitors. Reva offers to help out. Takumi is worried about their adventures, and Sophia suggests finding an attacker or a tank to strengthen their team. While everyone is asleep, Takumi works deep into the night. By morning, the devices are built. Sophia offers to help, and soon, the devices are ready to use. Watching Maple and Camellia play gives Takumi an idea. He thinks of getting a golem. Reva agrees that they'd be perfect for attackers or tanks. However, to pull it off, Takumi needs to level up his mana manipulation skill. He returns to work casting the spell and says the barrier should be erected once they install the devices around the mansion. Just then, his mana manipulation skill level increases, and he also obtains spell control skill. He thinks he can attempt to create a golem's control core if he can just improve his spell control skill a bit more. Meanwhile, in the Holy Empire of Sidonia, news reaches the Lord that the Divine Light Squadron has been captured. The subject also reports that it's likely that their involvement has been discovered as well. Elizabeth suggests postponing dealing with Barcula to focus on their plan. Homer gives an update on that situation. He says they failed to analyze the magic circle they discovered in the ruins, but it should be possible to activate the summoning using the explanation written in the ancient tomes. He thinks it'll take 2 or 3 months to gather the mana required. Back at Takumi's mansion, Takumi tries creating the golem's control core from a magic stone, but he realizes it won't be that easy. He still needs to level up his spell control skill. Maple asks if he can tame a golem. That thought hadn't crossed Takumi's mind. He thinks there's a chance and runs to Sophia for some intel. Sophia tells him that there are stray stone golems around the Forest of Death, while iron golems are in some dungeons in Horus. Takumi is surprised. He didn't know there were dungeons and is interested in entering one, but she warns him that entering a dungeon without a tank is a recipe for disaster. So off they go to the Forest of Death. Upon arrival, they quickly spot a massive stone golem. Sophia says it's probably a Guardian-class golem from the ruins. She warns that it's probably too dangerous as it's likely a Guardian class from the ruins. The golem spots them and they hide.
Oh my God!
Sophia suggests they pass on this particular one as she thinks it's too dangerous, but Takumi thinks that would make it a more reliable ally and jumps out dashing towards it. Sophia, Maria, and Reva are on high alert, ready to defend, but Takumi tells them to wait. As he nears the golem, despite his own jitters, he feels a faint connection between them. He then realizes that the golem was protecting ruins related to Nolan. He slowly reaches out and touches the golem, and just like that, he tames it. The girls are surprised and Maple is ecstatic about their new friend. Takumi decides to name it Titan. Titan seems friendly. As they turn to head back home, Sophia points out that Titan will cause a commotion in the city. Just then, Titan loses so much weight like some people would love to and takes a smaller form. Problem solved. In the Holy Empire of Sidonia, a few months into the future, Akira and Yamato are riding high after defeating all the knights. They're feeling pretty proud of themselves and ready to kick back and enjoy the rest of the day, but Akane is unimpressed by their indulgence. Back in the present, at Takumi's mansion, he finishes the design for Titan's new body. He then gathers Reba, Sophia, and Maria for a meeting. He tries to send them away for their own safety, but the girls aren't having it. They're upset and refuse to dissolve the contracts. They're ready to fight with him no matter what. Takumi has no choice now. He apologizes and asks them to stay, and they all promise to stand by him, which makes him quite happy. Titan's new body, which is basically a bootleg Transformer action figure, is all set and looking pretty flashy. Titan loves it. Maple is excited that he can finally talk. Takumi starts rambling about how unique the body is and then dramatically reveals a giant Titan. When he gives Titan the command to combine into the Great Titan, it's an epic moment. Takumi is on cloud 9, feeling like a total genius. Nolan is watching, amused, when Angel comes up with some bothering news. She says they've started seeing traces of Anat's existence. Nolan says she doesn't exist though, and Angel explains that they believe it's the influence of many years of faith from the Church of Divine Light. Also, she's on the verge of becoming an evil spirit. Nolan sees a war coming, but she can't interfere directly. Angel realizes that's why Nolan created Takumi's body and blessed him so extravagantly. Nolan says it's up to Takumi now. Meanwhile, Elizabeth watches the magic circle in anticipation. She says the time will be ripe soon. 1 year ago, in a deserted pioneer town near Bolton, Mani stood before her husband's grave one last time. They were being forced to abandon the village, even though they had nowhere else to go. The nobles had ruined the economy and then fled. Everyone was miserable. They seemed to have lost hope. They vowed never to trust nobles again. Mani's husband had worked himself until he fell ill, and the nobles refused him proper treatment. The villagers blamed them for his death. Mani wondered what she was even born for. Back in the present, Lord Godwin is in a tense meeting with Burton and Dorn about the villagers. Count Rockford has sheltered them in a refugee camp for a year, but he can't do that forever. They can't just toss them aside either. Burton says Count Rockford has requested they find a new home for the villagers. Godwin knows that with over 1,000 of them, they'll need a fair amount of land. The only option is a patch near the border where monsters roam. Developing it would be a nightmare, and only one man comes to mind for solving nightmares: Takumi. Meanwhile, Takumi finally decides it's time they tackle a dungeon. Out of all the dungeons available, they choose the A-ranked Forest of the Beast King, the second hardest one. Go big or go home, right? The place is mysteriously vast, with skies and forests despite being underground. The monsters are stronger and more aggressive than usual, but the team cuts through them with ease. Maple detects enemies before they get close, and Titan takes the monster attacks. Boss after boss goes down, and the team collects the treasure chest. They reach the final level after a whole day. Everyone is excited. Sophia's glad they've come this far without much trouble. Takumi agrees, saying it's because there aren't any traps. He spoke too soon because just then he steps on a spot that clicks. They all freeze, waiting for the unknown. Then a giant iron ball comes rolling at them. Takumi screams for everyone to retreat and the team bolts like they've never defeated a thing in their lives. The ball finally rolls away and they're relieved. Maple asks why Titan didn't just smash it. Titan, ever loyal, was just following Takumi's order to run. Suddenly, a wall seals behind them. There's only one way to go, forward. They arrive at a huge spooky area and Maple announces the boss is near. It appears, a massive angry mashup of a mommy dragon and a squirrel. Sophia identifies it as an S-rank Earth dragon. Takumi realizes he should have brought Giant Titan. The fight begins. The dragon's tail is a menace. Takumi tells Titan and Maple to stop it while Sophia slices it. Reva fires up her Foxfire, Maria brings the Fire Lance, and Takumi throws in a Wind Cutter all at once. Then he shouts the big move to Titan, Light of Judgment. Reva starts celebrating too early and Takumi halts her. The dragon's not done yet. It breathes fire, flinging Titan across the room like a rag doll. Sophia finds the weak spot and with help from Camellia, Takumi ends it by swinging his sword straight into the dragon's throat. Boss down, treasure unlocked. Camellia evolves into a dragon horse. A dragon part from the last boss intrigues Takumi. He already thinks of making something from it, a true producer at heart. Shortly after they return from the dungeon, Takumi is summoned by Godwin. Godwin briefs him about the southern region, an abandoned land once contested by the kingdom of Triaria, now monster-infested. Takumi mentions he's heard rumors of untapped adamantite and mithril veins in the area. Godwin asks if that means he's interested. Takumi stammers, trying to deny it like a kid trying to pretend not to like candy. Godwin cut to the chase, asking him to build a pioneer village there. Takumi asks why him and Godwin replies that he's heard about the wonders Takumi did in Board Village. He says he's asking because he thinks Takumi can do it. Burton adds that there's a river and a spring in the area, and it would be best to start building the village around the water source. It's also a distance from the monster's habitation. Sophia interrupts, confronting Godwin about requesting such from Takumi despite knowing the situation currently surrounding him. Takumi stops her and asks Godwin why this is so urgent. Godwin explains the situation of the villagers and says that's one of his reasons. Sophia asks about the other reason, but Takumi raises a hand, stopping her again. He agrees to do it. He says he can't just ignore people who have lost their homes. He remembers the people that welcomed him a year ago when he had no home and sees this opportunity as returning the favor. Godwin is grateful. The wings of Nolan get to work immediately. They divide the tasks, creating ramparts, digging deep moats along the outer perimeter, constructing a strong fortress, developing the roads inside, building the aqueduct, logging the groves, and clearing out the monsters. In just 10 days, the place looks satisfactory. Takumi sends Sophia to Bolton to arrange the villagers' transfer. Godwin is stunned at their speed. When the villagers hear they are going to the southern frontier, they assume it's a trap, just another noble tossing them to the wolves. Literally, Mani is angry. When they arrive, Dorn, who is leading the group, has his jaw dropped. The village is fortified. As they enter, Takumi welcomes them wholeheartedly. Dorn is speechless. Takumi has already prepared farmlands, an official's fort, homes for everyone, and even has sewage purification. He bows, deeply thankful. As Mani wanders inspecting the village, Sophia approaches her. She asks Mani to join them since she has no one. Sophia promises to talk to Takumi about it. She says everyone is busy, so he would need someone to help take care of him. Mani is brought before Takumi. He welcomes her kindly and offers her to join them right away, as long as she's okay with it. He also promises to pay her whatever wage they agree on later. Mani remembers the words of the villagers and refuses the offer, surprising everyone. She says she can't trust him. Maria starts to object, but Takumi stops her. He respects Mani's decision and decides to shelve the offer. Sophia isn't thrilled. As Mani walks away, her heart sinks. What kind of idiot says something like that? She couldn't stay now, not after burning that bridge. She imagines he'll have his eyes on her. Then she walks out of the fortress dramatically, like an emo teen, but the sound of wolves cut her rebellion short. Back at the fortress, the team is silent until Maple interrupts, alerting them about monsters. The villagers panic, but the wings of Nolan come to the rescue as usual. Takumi instructs Dorn to raise all the drawbridges and have the knights secure the villagers inside, assuring him that no monsters can get over the ramparts. Mani tries to return to the fortress, but it has been sealed off. Some villagers tell Maria that they saw her head past the south drawbridge. They're concerned about her safety. Mani is faced with two angry-looking wolves, growling and ready to feast. Now she wonders what she was thinking when she left the village. She thinks she was born to die at this moment and resolves to her fate. Suddenly, Takumi swoops in, saving her and slicing through the wolves. Mani tells him more are coming, but he assures her that they won't be a problem. Just then, the rest of the team returns, monsters thoroughly exterminated. Mani notices that Takumi is hurt. He says it's not a big deal, but she immediately ties it up. She apologizes, but Takumi stops her. He says he's glad she's not hurt, and he won't let anyone hurt the villagers. He wants them all to live peaceful lives. Mani's heart does a tiny emotional backflip. She realizes he's not like other nobles. She asks if his offer is still valid. He says it is, and she accepts it. Everyone is happy to have her. One more girl in the girl-filled team. Meanwhile, in Bolton, Godwin is impressed by Takumi after getting the report from Dorn. But he wonders if the village can serve as a wedge. In the Holy Empire of Sidonia, the kingdom of Triaria has sent a report to the Lord of Sidonia, informing him of the new fortress. He is not happy. Elizabeth steps forward and says the one to dominate the continent will be their holy empire of Sidonia. She asks her father to rejoice because the time is ripe. Back at the village, Takumi is thinking of more work to do because that's just how he rolls, and just then, Mani arrives with lunch. Maple is especially happy. While they're eating, they feel some unpleasant mana spread through the forest. Sophia has a bad feeling about it. Takumi realizes that it's been 1 year since Nolan sent him here. He knows they're finally here. Yamato, Akira, and Akane have been summoned by Elizabeth. Nolan watches the heroes being summoned and then trained. Angel approaches her saying she's surprised the heroes have already reached the level of rank A, adventurers within 3 months. Nolan says Sidonia will likely make their next move soon. Elizabeth announces the time has come to introduce Akira, Yamato, and Akane to all the nations of the continent. Both Yamato and Akira are pumped to finally show off as the holy empire of Sidonia's prized heroes, while Akane, although less than thrilled, pretends to be and agrees to accompany the boys. Over in the new village, which Godwin has decided to call Wedgeford, things are bustling. Merchants are coming and going, the villagers are learning from Bolton's craftsmen, and the crops are growing nicely. Takumi is glad. Sophia is doing what she does best when Maple calls her over. They've caught a monster they've never seen before, and Sophia quickly identifies it as a bush lizard. At home, while Mani is whipping up something delicious, the others discuss important business. Sophia says that it seems the monsters are growing in strength and that they're also spotting unfamiliar ones. She believes monsters from nearby habitats have started moving towards them, probably because of the mana they felt 3 months ago. She assumes it's had some kind of effect on the monsters. Takumi thinks it must be the summoning magic Nolan told him about. Dorn informs Takumi that Barak wants him back for a quest. Takumi asks if anything has changed back in Bolton, to which Dorn replies that nothing new has come up except for a rumor about the heroes appearing in Sidonia. This doesn't sit well with Sophia. Takumi completes that it was 3 months ago and the fluctuation of mana finally makes sense to Sophia. In Sidonia, the Lord sends the heroes off. Akane brings along Lulu despite Yamato and Akira's displeasure. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and Homer pray for Anat's blessings and a dark aura suddenly rises from the statue. At the Adventurers Guild, Hans tells Takumi about Sidonia's heroes. He says they all have black hair and black eyes, making Takumi wonder if they're Japanese like him. Apparently, the heroes are being taken around to the Churches of Divine Light, but Hans thinks it's just a front, and they're actually trying to put pressure on the followers of the Churches of Creation. The Papik Company wants Wings of Nolan to escort them to the royal capital. Takumi gladly accepts. Meanwhile, on the road, Yamato and Akira are whining about the bumpy carriage ride. Akira then moves to fantasizing about taking elves from Barcula. He says they're the heroes and the elves should be overjoyed to come with them. Yamato agrees, convinced that soon no one on the continent will be their match. Akane decides that this trip is her chance to do something. She thinks Baculatos will have something she can use to turn this situation right. She's sure her revelation skill is trying to tell her something. At the Adventurers Guild in Baculatos, Takumi registers Mani as an adventurer. He and Sophia get promoted to rank A, while Mani starts at rank D. Just then, the so-called heroes barge in like they own the place. A few people approach them asking if they're new, but Akira and Yamato immediately apply force, flooring them. They seem so cocky, and Sophia is clearly disgusted. They soon spot Sophia and Mani, and Akira offers to buy them off Takumi, expecting him to feel honored. But Takumi refuses and tells them to scram if that's all. The heroes are pissed and command the girls directly, but they refuse as well. Akira pulls his holy sword, but Takumi swiftly humbles him. Yamato thinks he has a chance, but he ends up receiving his own share. The heroes try to challenge him again, but Takumi points out that they're at a disadvantage. They seem to be sensible this time and take their leave while making empty threats. Akane rushes over to Takumi and apologizes on their behalf. They introduce themselves and she realizes that his name sounds Japanese, but Takumi cuts her off. He then mysteriously whispers to her that he'll be staying at the lakeside hotel before walking away. Akane is convinced he's the one she needs. At the hotel, everyone is chatting about the heroes. Sophia thinks the female seems alright and Takumi agrees, but he wonders if it was careless of him to tell her where they'd be staying. Akane is sneaking away with Lulu, determined to keep her clothes despite Lulu's pleas to be left behind. They get spotted by guards that start chasing, but things go quiet when Sophia appears. Sophia tells her the hotel is just past this alley. Maple takes care of the next guard and Akane gets her chance to run. Finally reaching the hotel, Akane thanks Sophia and Maple for their help, then goes straight to asking Takumi if he's Japanese. He confirms it, but she wonders about his appearance. After Akane promises not to tell anyone, Takumi decides to share his story with them. Meanwhile, Akira and Yamato learn about Akane's escape. They're not pleased at all, especially as they have to pause their travel and return to Sidonia for replanning. Back at the hotel, the girls are genuinely impressed by Takumi's story. Akane, however, confirms her suspicion that the Holy Empire of Sidonia is the villain. She chats with Takumi about how the Empire seemed to be stirring up trouble and trying to incite a war using the heroes. Feeling guilty, she apologizes for dragging him into the mess. Takumi tells her that they were both dragged into it. He then asks what's going on with the other two. Akane explains that they weren't like that at the start. Sophia asks if she thinks something could have been done to them, and Akane says there may have been something in the food and drink. She usually casts a purification spell on hers before eating as she didn't trust Sidonia from the start. Akane drops to her knees, begging Takumi to help her and Lulu. For some reason, both Takumi and Sophia join her in a comical attempt to stop her dramatics. Akane continues, saying that she's always wanted a chance to escape, and it's fine even if he's only willing to take her to another country. Takumi points out that she'll still be hunted down. Then he notices Lulu's proof of contract. Akane says she can't stand it either, and like the savior that he is, he takes it off. Lulu panics panics, worried that Akane would leave her, but Akane quickly reassures her that they'll always be together, but as friends now. Takumi announces that they'll head to his mansion first. They set off without wasting any time. When they reach the mansion, Akane and Lulu are treated to dinner, and Akane is pleasantly surprised by the food. Takumi promises he'd get some rice soon too. After some hesitation, Lulu finally accepts Akane's invitation to the table. As they take the first scoop, Akane bows her head, which makes Maria panic, thinking the food isn't good enough. To everyone's surprise, Akane actually begins to cry, but it's tears of joy. She never thought she'd get to enjoy such a meal again. Takumi feels a mix of sympathy and understanding, knowing she has probably been on edge since arriving. Meanwhile, in Wedgefort, Dorn notices unusual swelling in the forest. He soon realizes it's a monster stampede and quickly orders a message to be sent to Bolton. Back in Bolton, Takumi and Reba are hard at work. Reba seems to have learned some alchemy. Takumi interrupts, asking her to call the others. He announces that he's ending the contracts with them. As they start to argue, he stops them, explaining that he sees them as family and believes they share a stronger bond without the formality of contracts. He wants them by his side as partners. Takumi asks them to step forward and officially ends the contracts, bringing smiles. He goes back to work as expected, forging twin swords. Just then, an emergency summon comes in from the Adventurers Guild, calling all adventurers ranked B and higher to gather at the guild ASAP. There's an emergency in Wedgefort. At the Adventurers Guild, Takumi meets the Lion Fangs with Hans and Barak. After the greetings, he dives right in, asking about Wedgefort. Barak fills him in on the monster situation, mentioning that Dorn has asked for their help. He says they're only calling in rank B adventurers and above because of the level of threat, but timing is not on their side. Heath explains that most parties are on other quests. Takumi gets a bit anxious about their small crew, but Hans reassures him at least the 3 available parties are capable of the work of 100. Just then, the Crimson Rose team walks in, led by Marilda, and she introduces her crew, Barreleye, Mary, Linda, and Paula. She says hello to both teams, not without teasing Riel. Barak tells everyone to get moving to Wedgefort, so they head off immediately. Meanwhile, Akane and Lulu are left behind at the mansion with Titan to guard them. Takumi hands Sophia one of the newly synthesized swords while keeping the sister sword for himself. Sophia's sword delivers devastating damage to its foes, while his inflicts mental damage from even the slightest scratches. He says if they can chain attacks from the 2 swords, it'll be quite effective. Sophia agrees to the teamwork. Maria announces they're close to Wedgefort and the squad stands ready for action. Rayla reassures them that not too many monsters can breach the tall ramparts, so the villagers should be alright. Just then, Maple calls out bad news. To their surprise, there are winged monsters. Everyone springs into action, taking out monsters like pro-level players. Dorn spots them and asks for the bridge to be lowered, and the wings of Nolan keep pushing through until they've cleared the village. The villagers are excited to see them. Takumi quickly assigns Reva and Mani to assist the wounded while he, Sophia, Maria, and Maple head out to support the other teams. Upon arrival, they notice the monsters are pulling back. They seem to be working together, but Riel says that's impossible. Dorn explains that they have coordinated movements. They attack, then pull back, only to attack again when the knights are resting, over and over. Takumi says maybe there's a leader. He thinks the magic from Sidonia's abomination may have caused some monsters to evolve. Merylda senses this isn't going to be a typical extermination mission. Meanwhile, at the Holy Empire of Sidonia, the Lord receives news of the attack. Feeling devious, he considers supporting the monsters, saying they must act on this opportunity. Elizabeth the Witch, always plotting, suggests taking the chance to weaken the nations allied with Barkula. And, of course, she has just the right tools, the heroes. Back in Wedgefort, many of the villagers are injured and Takumi is handing out every portion he has. Sophia tries to stop him, but Takumi says portions are only worth anything when used. She asks him to at least save some for himself for later, but our boy believes he can avoid any injuries that would require a portion and can moderate his stamina. Knowing his selflessness, Sophia promises herself to protect him at all costs, even if it means putting herself at risk. Takumi instructs that the children be gathered in one place and kept from going outside. Then he assigns Reva, Mani, and Maple to guard them. Suddenly, the forest stirs again. Takumi, Sophia, and the 2 other teams march out like the new Avengers, ready for round 2. The spellcasters take the lead, landing the first attack. Camellia and the rest of the team follow next, everyone fighting bravely and taking out loads of monsters. But in the heat of battle, Sophia gets a bit too eager despite Takumi's warnings. The monsters retreat again, but this time, the big boss emerges. It gathers energy from smaller monsters and grows larger. Then it steps up, immediately targeting Sophia. Takumi leaps in to save her, wishing that he had brought Titan. Sophia isn't backing down though, and it backfires when the monster roasts her. It's about to finish her off when the rest of her teammates come to her rescue. Sophia quickly gets back on her feet and she joins Takumi for a combined attack. Then, in a dramatic moment, she tosses him her sword and he delivers the final blow using all his mana. He doesn't forget to maintain the cool pose as the monster goes down in flames. Once the dust settles, Takumi rushes over to heal Sophia, who insists he should take care of himself first, but he won't have it. He gets frustrated and shouts at her for being so reckless, yet Sophia simply replies that her life isn't worth much. He still heals her. Barilda and Heath come over to share the good news. The rest of the monsters have fled. Takumi breathes a sigh of relief, then faints on the spot. When he comes to, he's in bed surrounded by his worried ladies. Everyone is happy that he's okay, but Sophia look a bit down. A few days later, after helping the village rebuild, they're back in Bolton. Meanwhile, the heroes are busy doing Villian things. Finally back at the mansion, everyone gathers for a feast. They're all having a blast, except Sophia. Reva says she's been like that since they got back from Wedgefort. Takumi is clueless, but Maria and the others give him a nudge to go talk to her. So, Takumi grabs the plate of meat and offers it to Sophia, then plops down next to her. He starts off by apologizing for raising his voice earlier. He gets that she made a reckless move to protect him, and that means a lot. Sophia admits she messed up, saying she was just trying to keep him safe even if it meant putting her life on the line. Takumi quickly reassures her that he doesn't want that at all. He thinks they should be partners who can lean on each other. After a few more heartfelt words, they patch things up. Fast forward a few days, Takumi decides to take Akane and Lulu to meet with the Lord, asking if they can stay with him for a bit. Godwin agrees, making the girls happy. But then he drops the heavy news about a devastating massacre of a village in their ally nation, Samandor. Akane feels awful for not stopping the boys. She knows she'll have to face them eventually and promises herself that she won't run away anymore. Meanwhile, Takumi realizes Sidonia has pushed an innocent girl into a tough spot just to serve its own selfish interests. He heads over to chat with Nolan. He asks her why she sent him away a year ago, thinking she must have some grand plan. Nolan tells him it's really up to him. Takumi commits to protecting everyone he cares about in this world. After all, as an alchemist, he gets to create all the things he could ever want. He likes the life he has now. Nolan seems pleased with his determination and lights up when she sees the sweets Takumi brought her. Nolan knows that the road ahead won't be easy for Takumi. He's the only hope for the continent of Mildgard. If he gets strong enough, it could change the future. She's counting on him. She believes he has the potential to be the greatest alchemist of all time. Finally, it seems like Takumi is getting a little well-deserved rest.